I'm Brett Bursey, and I've been working here for an incredibly long period of time. I'm the executive director of the Progressive Network for the last 29 years. The Progressive Network was started in 1996 by the Grassroots Organizing Workshop. You see the signs that say GROW. And the Grassroots Organizing Workshop was a radical social justice organization that got started with the Simkins in 1974 as a house meeting. We got a building in 1978, and we were there for 20 years. Building got sold out from under us. We wandered homeless for a while, ended up in the Modjeska house next door, which did anybody get to do the tour tonight? All right, you're nodding your head. You got to do the tour. So we owe $5 at least. You got to pay them $5 a head. So.
I'll continue.
But it is open on occasional days. You can go to Historic Columbia's website and see. It's not open all the time. But Dr. Wiggins, did you think it was worth the trip?
Absolutely, it's brilliant.
Thank
Brilliant.
you, sir.
You did a great job.
And so the National Park Service came in with a grant. Historic Columbia is a steward, and the city of Columbia owns the property. Ms. Simpkins lived there from 1936 to she passed away in 1992. And in that house, Thurgood Marshall wrote the first brief that became Brown versus the Board in 1946, well before the start of the Topeka case that became Brown. There's an incredible lesson that we will get to as we move through the eras. And that's, you take that any way you want to, whether that's an era or an era, that we pass through in time and get to the point in the 1940s and 50s, as to why everybody in the world thinks that Brown was the case that Thurgood Marshall argued in the Supreme Court in 1954. And so this is the 10th year of the Modjeska School. And I'm sure that we're recording now, right, Chris? And that we have recordings of all classes that if you miss one, they should be posted the next day, and you'll have the ability to go in and watch the recordings and make up your lessons because they all fit together. And I haven't had a chance to tell all the people I see in the room, hi, I'm so glad you're here, because it would really be tragic if you weren't. We're working really hard, Becky and I, to get the ball to the top of the hill, and it's almost there. We bought this building, put our home up for it, and Becky and I were really trepidatious about that, but we're now believing that the building is going to pay for itself and that the school is getting on the ground with you people. The students are the only people that can explain what this course is about. It's very difficult. People think it's a Black history course or a DEI course or something like that, or a Democratic Party rah-rah squad, and it's none of the above. And so what it is it's the word that I'm hearing most regularly, the people that have been through school, nearly 400 graduates now. The word I'm hearing with the greatest regularity is transformational. Mm-hmm. People are relating to their role as a citizen differently, their place on the planet as a human being differently, who made the rules and who benefits from them, opens all kinds of doors in your mind and in your life. And so we want to transform citizens to work together to build that beloved community of shared values that Dr. King called for. Dr. King actually in 1967, the April 4th speech at Riverside Church, look it up beyond Vietnam, we'll talk about it when we get to that era. He called for a radical revolution of values. And so when you leave here, you're going to understand that, yes, indeed, you are a radical, because the contemporary values that are running this country and destroying the planet are not yours. So you will embrace that to them. And so I'm going to introduce who I can see in the room that is part of our board or our staff. We'll start over here with Gabriella Zorlo, as a Modjeska School graduate who quit a good job to come work for us. That's all she gets. That's her tips of the day. And Chris Gardner, Chris, wave to people. Chris has been with us for a long time now.
Almost. At the end of the semester, it'll be a decade.
A decade. You'll get a 10-year pin. And there's James Felder over there. James, can you stand up? James and I have been working together since we met each other in 1968 when I was working for the Southern Student Organizing Committee. And James had just come to be the director of the South Carolina Voter Education Project. And that was 1968. There were no Black elected officials in 1968 when I was at the university. And the White Racist Party with the Democrats. And so there's some things here we kind of understand about these different tendencies, how white supremacy changes its code or its habit. And it looks like it's the same people underneath. Mr. Cahoon. Cecil Cahoon, has been with us for a while. Cecil is a professional, nonprofit doctor. Cecil's been doing that for 20 years now with the National Education Association. He's a regional organizer, and we've been a union shop since 1981. The smartest people I've met in those 50 years are regional organizers for national unions, and Cecil's been doing that for a long time now. And his turf is Southern, generally supposed to be Southern 501c3s, which is the educational associations like we are, that are having trouble getting by. And so he's perfect for the job. He's been helped us redo our bylaws in 2021. And Cecil will be talking about why you're learning what you're learning today. And Becky Robbins, the young lady back there by the door. She checked down at Grow in 1990 with an article that he wrote for the Bar Association about South Carolina being the only state in the nation that didn't allow anonymous testing for AIDS. Needless to say, that wasn't a good plan to stop an epidemic. They wouldn't run the article that Becky wrote interviewing Harriet Hancock, which many of you know. They wouldn't run it because they were afraid of the Christian Coalition too, like the entire legislature was. And so she stopped down to Grow, where we had a statewide newspaper, and she submitted the article, and we gave her an office and nailed the door shut.
True story.
But the books that you see back there, which all of you are welcome to, this full set of books as students, are Becky's labors. And the first one was in 2014 that she wrote about Modjeska. And I'm going to just tell you one more little story about that book and Modjeska, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Green, who is in Zoom land right now. Dr. Green is our lead instructor, and he's supposed to be here, but he is the president of the African American Intellectual History Society and the president of this organization. And they are hosting with the South Carolina Historical Association a regular event that he was booked for in Florence. And so he'll be zooming in a minute. And Josh Dunn just is leaning against the door there. Josh is one of our reliable volunteers who gets paid twice as much as he does. We're going to double his salary, not another zero, but thank you, Josh. And I want to recognize Cecil Cahoon, not Cecil Cahoon, Cecil Rigby, the other Cecil. That's what I call him, Mr. Rigby. Mr. Rigby crunches numbers like some people eat breakfast cereal. He is super, and you'll see as we move through the course some of the data that Cecil has unfolded for you. But what I wanted to tell you about the school has a lot to do with what Modjeska was doing. And this is another example of history not repeating exactly, but certainly rhyming very closely. We started the school discussions in the Modjeska house next door, I think it was 2013 and 14, about how the need to do something to carry the mission and vision on beyond me. I think I turned 65 then, and had delusions of retiring. That the school didn't start until 2015 was our first class. But in 2014, while developing the school and getting it ready, I spoke at Tulane to a group of executive directors of Southern voting rights organizations after the Supreme Court struck down Section 5. And Section 5 was part of the Voting Rights Act that said all states with a racist voting history have to have any voting change cleared by the Supreme Court before they can put it into effect. So you could stop things, bad things, before they happen. Supreme Court said, we're post-racial now, look, we got a black president, don't have to do that anymore. So we were all rather devastated by that because it really was one of the first big nails out of the coffin of Jim Crow. And so I'm speaking, and I realize this is a sad group, so I quote my mentor when somebody asked her, how do you keep doing this decade after decade? And she said, well, I guess I'm just selfish because it makes me feel good. This guy comes up to me afterwards. He says, I know who your mentor was. I said, how do you know that? He said, I wrote my PhD dissertation on the conference she organized in Columbia, South Carolina with W.E.B. Du Bois in 1946. Would you like the FBI record? He said. I knew that something had happened. The only quote we had from her was things would be different if the young black people and young white people that were working together hadn't been smashed by the FBI. One of our friends who helped start the school, Graham Duncan, who was at Carolina, his job at the Carolina Museum was reading dead people's mail. And so he was really good at it. He went to Howard. He came back with a list of places that Modjeska started her leadership training school in 1946 from the house that we started our school 70 years later, and her curriculum's the same as ours 70 years later. That is an example of how when you erase history, people have to start over again. We've got mobs of people all over the country rallying and crying for progress that they're not aware of what came before them. So they're going to start digging a new hole instead of finding a hole that's already deep enough to jump inside. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is to show you where the holes are that you can dig deeper. And so I want to know, did I get everybody in the room that, aye? Yes, he's shaking his head. We won't let him know, but there's a fellow over here. His name is James Carpenter, who got signed up a long time ago to be the treasurer, and he had no idea that it was a lifetime assignment. So he does not claim the job, but he does the job still. And so all praise to James Carpenter. Yeah. He's made it clear that he will not go to jail for any kind of malfeasance, but he also keeps us out of jail. And we'll assure you that we'll go to jail, but it won't be for money, right? And so, Becky?
Running back and forth, I just want to make sure that you had introduced Chris. Okay, because this, you have no idea. We're gonna clone him.
Oh my God.
Oh, speaking of cloning and extra hands, the Modjeska School has an AV club. So if anybody has any interest in learning about audio or video, please see me after class.
Make a note, Thomas, raise your hand. Dr. Grant, are you with us?
Oh, yes, I certainly am.
We want to see you. Why can't we see you? Let me see Dr. Grant.
Well, all you would see is me just driving a car.
Oh,
So yeah. I do. I will say I will be there just after 2:00, less than an hour away. First off, my apologies for basically what happened was the SCHA conference happened to be scheduled today. So I got double booked, but I am pleased and humbled to see everyone at the Grove building this afternoon, and also the folks on Zoom. I am Dr. Robert Green II, the lead instructor of the Modjeska Simkins School. And it's actually quite appropriate that I am driving to you from the SCHA conference. Right before I left, I had lunch with a few of my fellow historians, and we were all talking about the same thing, which is the chill that has fallen over academia when it comes to talking about anything related to diversity, to race, to ethnicity, etc., anything that relates to the true history of our country and our state. So the Modjeska Simkins School, every year I've led it, and I've been leading it since 2019, it has become increasingly relevant and also increasingly urgent for us to continue its mission. Now, its mission, as Brett just said, is all about presenting a people's history of South Carolina. Now, this is not a history that just talks about your John C. Calhouns or your Ben Tillmans or your Strom Thurmans, the men I refer to often as the Palmetto Legion of Doom. Instead, our school is also about the folks like the rebels of the Stonewall Rebellion, or Denmark Vesey, or Septima Clark, or Modjeska Simkins. The men and women who, over the centuries, fought, sometimes died, to make South Carolina a much better place than it is. Indeed, to make it the state that it needs and should be for all of its citizens. A major part of that is learning the state's history, warts and all. And our hope with the Modjeska Simkins School is that by the end of it, you'll not only learn the history of South Carolina, but you'll also learn how to apply that history to the here and now. Now, what makes our school different from, say, taking a college course on history or a K-12 course on history is that we don't just teach the history, we also answer the question, so what? So why does this history actually matter? Why does it matter that you learn about someone like Modjeska Simkins or a James Felder or a Robert Smalls, so on and so forth? Well, the answer is, if you have a sense of how this state has been changed in the past, how people fighting for freedom and justice have been here before, then it should give us a sense of how to fight those same fights in the 21st century. Because as you all know, the fight for freedom continues even today, especially today in South Carolina. And so I am pleased that all of you are joining us. Keep in mind that in the final weeks of the class, we'll move from history to actually applied history, of thinking about what this history means in terms of citizenship, what it means in terms of activism, and what it means in terms of citizen action to help make South Carolina a better place. Welcome to the Modjeska Simkins School of Human Rights.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Keep your hands on the wheels and your eyes on the plate. See you shortly.
Thank you.
Now, before we bring up Cecil Cahoon to talk about the application of that which you've learned and how we came to this analysis, I want to go back and mention that some of you weren't old enough to know that Jim Felder, who also stood up once, I'm not going to make him stand up again, is even older than me, and that he was one of the first Black elected officials in South Carolina in 1970, and busted open the all-white Democratic Party that had been in power since the late 1890s. And so Jim was in the first crew after Reconstruction, really. And there's many more stories, but stick with us and you'll hear them. And so Cecil Cahoon, come up here and tell people what we're going to do when we know all this stuff, and why we're going to do it, how we're going to do it, inside, outside. All right.
Well, I was taught by people that I respected and trusted when I was a kid that when you know better, you do better, right? Did you all hear that too from your parents and grandparents? When you know better, you do better. So I paid attention in school. I was that kid who paid real close attention in school. I loved American history. I loved civics when civics was still taught. And I loved it so much that when I left college, I became a teacher because I thought, what better to do than to teach, right? Well, I grew up on the coast of North Carolina and went to college inland. Off is what they said. You went to college off, right? To go inland from the water. And so I became a teacher and pretty quickly grew frustrated with my fellow teachers, who the woman who taught across the hall from me and down the halls from me, the ladies and the gentlemen who talked with me, seemed not to be that interested or really knowledgeable about how decisions got made that affected our lives and livelihoods in public education. This was in the early 1990s. And you all remember what happened in 1994, right? When Gingrich and the Republican Revolution took over in Congress, and suddenly federal laws began looking very different than they had before, particularly regarding public education. And so I was the one who, and it was the early days of the internet too, so I was the one who would go to the library in our school where there was the one computer in our school and the one printer attached to a computer. And I would be the one going to the legislative website and downloading these bills that had been introduced. And I'd take them with me to the teacher workroom, not lounge, teacher workroom for lunch and would share. And I'd say, do you see what is happening? What is being proposed by these people you elected? Well, I became unpopular with my fellow teachers by pointing out to them, this is what you voted for. And this is what they're proposing to do to you and me and us. And after about 3 or 4 years of doing that, the teacher across the hall from me said, this probably is not the place for you. She said, you need to go to work lobbying at the State House. Well, within a year, I was lobbying at the State House for our Teachers Association in North Carolina, the NCAE, the North Carolina Association of Educators. Now, this was in the 90s, in the late 90s, when the majority of lawmakers in North Carolina were pro-public education. This is not code. There were Republicans who were pro-public education, and most of the Democrats, of course, were pro-public education, and they were in the majority at the time. So being a lobbyist for public education in those years in North Carolina was one of the best things that you could do. It was not that difficult. It was easy, and I had a great team to work with, mentoring and teaching me. Well, in 2002, our sister affiliate here, the South Carolina Education Association, had its government relations director retire. And I thought to myself, I'm a young fella and energetic. I don't know much about South Carolina, but I ought to apply for that job just to go through the process of applying for a job, right? See what that's like. And I applied for it, and lo and behold, I got it. So I moved from North Carolina to South Carolina in the late summer of 2002. Now, if you don't remember what this political landscape looked like in August, September of 2002, Jim Hodges was running for re-election. He was a pro-public education governor. The polling showed that he was going to win re-election. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to get to go to South Carolina and work with a pro-public education governor, and we're going to have a good working relationship. And I'm going to be just as effective and successful in South Carolina as I have been in North Carolina. So I bought my little house across the river and I moved here. And almost as soon as I moved here, the polls started showing that this fellow named Sanford was overtaking Hodges. And I thought, wait, can I go back to North Carolina? Well, he won, and Lindsey Graham won that year too, taking over from Strom Thurmond. I should mention, by the way, and I've told this before, that when I moved to South Carolina, although I had been a great student of North Carolina history, I knew a lot about that. All that I knew about this state when I moved here was that it started the Civil War and Strom Thurmond fired the first shot. That's all that I knew. So when I got here, and a colleague of mine took me down to the State House to introduce me to the people that I would need to know, I started learning a lot more about your state than I had ever known before. And I thought, well, that's all right. The tactics that I have learned lobbying in North Carolina will serve me here. All you have to do is develop the data necessary to inform decision makers of what good decisions look like. Give them that information, be nice to them, and then they will vote the way that you want them to vote. And over the next 3 years, I learned a hell of a lot more about your state and its legislators than I had ever known before. And what I learned for the first time in my life was that what those respected mentors of mine had told me in my childhood, that when you know better, you do better, doesn't apply to everybody. Not everybody believes it, that when you know better, you do better. Because I told people better, right? Legislators at the State House. My friend Bernadette Hampton, who is a past president of the South Carolina Education Association and was on the board at the time that I came here, will remember what it was like back in those days, and of course, how it has been since then. So I was extremely frustrated at going to the State House and telling people what right things were, what was necessary to do, and then seeing them not do those things. I thought, what is it that I'm missing? What am I not knowing? What do I not realize? And I learned that I have to learn much, much more about South Carolina's history than I ever imagined I would need to know. And so for the past 22 years, that's what I have done. I have studied South Carolina history to the point where now I know my adopted state better than I knew my home state. And part of that learning for myself was coming to the Modjeska School. I knew who Brett Bursey was because Brett Bursey has a reputation in South Carolina, right? So if you're studying the history of this state, you don't have to get very far before you start running across his name. But I didn't come to the Modjeska School until 2020. It just happened to be after a Democratic Party convention in Lexington County. on that afternoon, you may not remember this. I encountered you in the parking lot after that meeting was over. And you said, well, you know what, because I introduced myself to you and said, I really appreciate the work that you do. And you said, well, you know, we've got this orientation coming up for the Modjeska School and you ought to come and participate. And so I did. That was in 2020. And my God, how good that felt. I mean, by the end of the first meeting, I thought, oh, this is my tribe. These are my people. And when it comes to knowing better and then doing better, I thought, oh, these are the people who spread that word, who take the lessons that we get from Dean Robert Green. I call him Dean, the Dean of the Modjeska School, and take it back into our communities to build community for the purpose of building a movement and a base of power so that when issues arise, we can mobilize that base of power in our own communities and make good things happen when and where we can. So as a result of all of that, I'm now involved with the network on the board where I get to participate in a way that I had not before in the life of the network and promote it in all the places and ways that I can. Which is why I'm really thrilled to see you here today. And the folks who are on the screen as well in Zoom land, there are 12, I think, on the Zoom call. The beauty of this, Brett already mentioned that we've had about 400 graduates of the Modjeska School, which means that there are 400 people roaming South Carolina now who know better and can do better and apply the lessons that they have learned than there were before 2015. And at the end of this year's school, there will be this many more who can take these lessons back to their communities, build community, the beloved community, and do things that have not been done before. Somebody at our network meeting on Thursday night said, oh, we're behind time. We're behind. We need to run and catch up. Anybody here was on the call with us on Thursday night or here in the meeting on Thursday night? And I just sort of bit my tongue and shook my head. And when the time came to speak, I said, you know, we've been behind for a long, long time. What I didn't say is, where have you been? Where have you been? It's nice to join when and where you can, based on when and where you are in your life. But imagine what we could have accomplished if you had been here with us 20 years ago. Right? Or even 10 years or 5 years ago. Thank God that you're with us today and are here to learn what there is to learn so that you can go back and then start where you are, reach out to the people that you know who share your values and your perspective and bring them too into the beloved community. If we do those things, imagine what our graduate pool will look like in another 10 years. Not merely another 400, maybe another 1,000, right? And this is how we build a movement, little by little by little, build a power base, little by little, not just here in Columbia and the Midlands, but thank goodness now we have Jim Felder running an on-site location in Sumter. We have Bernadette Hampton working with our folks at the Penn Center in Beaufort, and perhaps we can create other satellite locations in other parts of the state going forward. Brett, does that cover something that you wanted me to talk about?
Yeah, I think that we're going to have a Q&A after we get short introductions from everybody. But let's hear it for Cecil. Go ahead.
Okay.
And before we bring Dr. Gallman on, which Chris is going to show Dr. Gallman to talk about what he's doing. Jim's got something to say, but I want to recognize, stand up, go ahead, Jim. But I want to recognize while you're standing that I didn't introduce Bernadette Hampton, our newest board member, who is working on a remote broadcast at Penn Center that is just, it's something we've been wanting to do since we started the school, was to get into the hinterlands. And we can't save everybody but 40 people at a time here in Columbia. And so this remote facility in Beaufort at Penn being a historic place where we actually founded the network in '96. I saw Dr. King speak there as a junior at Beaufort High School in 1965. And so Penn has been very special to everybody that feels much the way we do here today. And thank you, Bernadette, for coming all the way from Beaufort. Dr. Robert Adams, the new executive director at Penn, is the reason we're there. The Penn has been on some really hard times. And Dr. Adams is a real activist organizer who happens to be in Texas with family business today, and he may zoom in with us. And if you see him come in, let me know and we'll let Dr. Adams say a few things. Jim?
Just a light moment on Modjeska.
Okay, we need light moments. She had a wicked sense of humor.
I first met Modjeska Simkins in 1967 when I returned home to do the Voter Education Project. She was on the reception committee, the only female, and you had about 10 males. And after it was all over, she said, "Young man, now some of these people you see here, you can't trust them. Come by and sit with me. I'll tell you who to work with, who to listen to, and who not to work with." That was 1967. She was a great lady. Be sure you visit the house next door, which is a museum now. She cranked out more press releases than all of the civil rights organizations in South Carolina. And you see the old mimeograph machine that she did it with over in the house. Upon her death, we hung her portrait in the State House. Brett was there, he spoke, and I spoke. I shared with the audience all that she had done through the years and so forth. And at the end, I said, one day, if you're riding by the State House, or one evening, and you see the lights flashing and the building shaking, don't get upset. That'll be Modjeska Simkins in there arguing with Ben Tillman, Strom Thurmond, and she would be winning the argument. That's who Modjeska Simkins was. So I had to get that in.
I got that. Dr. Gallman, you out there? And Dr. Gallman.
Yes, I am.
Is a medical doctor. He's not just a historian, but he's a gastrointestinologist. Is one of the people that have helped keep me alive for decades, much to many people's chagrin. And Dr. Gallman is a nationally respected African-American historian about Africa a long time ago. So has so much information and so much need for it. For people to understand, I learned growing up reading South Carolina history books that the poor ignorant savages we rescued from Africa and brought them over here was the greatest thing ever happened to them. And Dr. Gallman won't go too deeply into what the real story was, because he's got a course that how many sessions, how many lectures this year, Dr. Gallman?
10 to 12.
A lot.
10 to 12.
So it is really fascinating, and he's really good at it. And it will be all on Zoom, and it will start the 18th. It's a Sunday, the second.
I think it's the 9th.
No, it's at 7. The 16th. The 16th of this month, Dr. Gallman's Zooms will happen at 6:30 in the evening. We have Sunday events we call deep dives from 4 to 6. And we've been doing that even before we started the school. And we bring in special people. And then Dr. Gallman will do his lecture series starting at 6:30 on the Sundays after that. So Dr. Gallman, say something.
Thank you so much. Greetings to everyone. I apologize for not being able to be there. To paraphrase the great historian, Dr. John Henry Clark, Black history is the missing pages of world history. The history of people of African origin has been ignored, it's been altered, it's been hidden, it has actually also been stolen. And the current battles against this Black history are really not new. They actually started with the creation of what we now call whiteness, with the prevention of the people subjected to the earliest human trafficking reigns to be able to learn how to read. They began with the creation of the slave Bible, with selected verses intended to create better slaves. Most of my previous lectures are on YouTube. However, I've continued to do my research, proved most of these lectures since last year. Some of the lectures actually have grown so much that I've divided them into two parts instead of one lecture because they became too long. It's imperative that we combat the forces of ignorance, that we confront this new science of creating ignorance, which is called agnotology. And that being said, I want to end with the last lines of a poem by a very, very good friend of mine, the late Listabel Middleton, who hosted a program that is still available, some of which is still available on South Carolina ETV, called For the People. And a lot of people don't realize that he was also a poet. His poem On the Origin of Things ends with, minute by minute, hour by hour, as you lose your history, you lose your power. So sharpen your eyes, tune your ear, so you'll know what you see, understand what you hear. I look forward to seeing you all on the 16th.
Thank you, Dr. Goff. So that, again, is the second Sunday after we start the school. On the third, which is Monday.
Probably need to remind people that there is a separate registration for Dr. Norman's series of lectures.
We will let the students know that. And this is a public, that our Sunday things have always been public. And if you've got the list of class schedules that has little blue lines on some of the public stuff. And this is the opportunity that we have to find people who either wrote their dissertation or won big law cases in the Supreme Court, or wrote the greatest book about something that is really compelling that happened in South Carolina. And these are people all over the country that would rather come and talk to us because we want to hear what they've got to say. And we also have some of their books. And so we're now going to just kind of do some housekeeping here, and then we're going to hear from the students about who you are and why you're here. Gabby? Gabby's going to talk about your rules for behavior.
That's right. Good boy. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go over some of the class protocols. You can find these online on the Modjeska School website. So all of your class schedule, course readings, and other resources are posted at modjeskaschool.com. You will receive access to password protected study guides and links to join on Zoom. You will find this on the website, but we will send it out through email as well.
Becca's going to show the website
Okay.
protocol.
We record all of the classes and post them on our website after each session. Students who miss a class are expected to view the recording on your own. If attending in person, feel free to bring snacks and beverages to share. I'm going to speak from experience. Some of my favorite classes were when we came together and everybody brought something for charcuterie boards, or we have one student who is an amateur bartender, and she made like a cocktail for our class. And after class, most of the time you have a group of students who stay after, and we're eating and drinking and talking about the class and what we're doing and organizing, and truly the best part. Note that GROW is a meat-free zone, so please bring vegetarian food only. Students with older children or grandchildren are always welcome to bring them in. We love having kids. Be aware that the faculty and guest presenters may use language that can be challenging in modern times. We do not censor the historical and contextual use of harsh realities and offensive language. We believe that these terms convey the grim reality of our history. The study of South Carolina's history and mores that built white supremacy does not provide a safe space for authentic conversations. Concepts, words, and images that may trigger deep emotional responses will be discussed in context. And I will also say that by the time that we get to some of these, we have created among ourselves a really safe and supportive environment. So just know that you're not alone as we talk about these things. If you're on Zoom, please display your first and last name. A photo of yourself, if you're not on video, is helpful. Also, share your pronouns if you're comfortable doing so. We appreciate seeing everyone, so please turn on your video when you're speaking and don't worry about looking presentable. I have shown up many times in my pajamas. So keep the chat function relevant to class. If you have questions, please direct them to Dr. Green or the presenter in the chat, or you can use the raise your hand function to be recognized to speak. This year, we'll also have someone in class monitoring the chat to answer questions and to provide links to some of the things that are mentioned during the presentation. Throughout the session, we're always happy to answer any of your questions or concerns. You can contact us at network@scpronet.com or call the office at 803-808-3384. And again, this information and this number is available online. I think that's just about it. We have community cleanup
Nobody got
after
up and
class.
left, so I think that's okay.
That sounds good? Okay, cool.
And there are people that aren't going to be in this room to have the fun that Gabby said after the class. That's the downside of Zooming. And that what we are trying to do with these remote things, you can do at home. Get somebody to watch it with you, so you've got somebody to talk to about it. Get your neighbors, your family, your church, your club, your school, your motorcycle gang, whoever. Y'all get together and try and create some community in your neighborhood, but also that the opportunity to discuss what it is that you just heard is very valuable. And Becky Robbins, is she left through? There she is. Becky, come talk to people about the.
I can share the screen.
Chris can just, this is just a real brief thing, just to kind of show you where you can find things that'll be necessary for this thing. If you can't remember how to spell Modjeska, you can get to scpronet and you can pull down the Modjeska schools linked up at the top menu there. Which is how our B person is getting.
So I want to go, I would like to see the Progressive Network site because I want to show them something about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so if everybody looks here, the website is scpronet.com. And then once you get to the landing page, if you're trying to access the school, you can go to the Modjeska School tab here. And once you click on the Modjeska School tab, you'll be taken to the Modjeska School site, and you can access the current semester, the spring session. So once you click on the.
Chris, show that the class calendar has the links for the stuff, which is the schedule has the links to the reading.
Yeah, they're
On, let me see, okay.
You have to go to
pull down the spring session or the class calendar.
Okay, so yeah, so under the spring sessions tab, you can go to class calendar. And this will give you, this is essentially the syllabus. This will have the dates of the classes. And then it also includes who will be, brief synopsis of what we'll be covering in the class. And then
click the hot link that says class 1. And these hot links under the schedule will take you to what we call the study guide. And click that, Chris. And then you'll see that you need a password, which is a secret password that we have to like bond you not to sell. Is Mod School 25. MOD School, Mod School 25. And then that will type that in there, Chris, and we'll see what happens.
All lowercase.
yes. Yes, it is all lowercase, Mod School 25.
And so you'll see things here that are in the green. We will not use the word mandatory, but we will look very poorly upon you if you don't read the ones that are in green. And then there's things that are supplemental. What you'll find is there's more than you can get done, but that's fine. You can come back to this. This will be up and you'll have access to it as a graduate. But there's some things that are like links to original documents. We'll have some up this year that no one has seen about the Klansmen that have been arrested here in South Carolina. and court documents of some profound impact, that you will know where they are once you go there. And one of the things that is really great on this first class is that the presenter, Chris Judge, is now working at the University of South Carolina Native American Resource Center in Lancaster, USC. And they have a website we're linked to. And we're associated with the Native American Commission, South Carolina American Indian Commission, which is a 501c3 we've been working with since it was started in the 80s. And the CEO for that is going to be here on the first Sunday for the Zoom. So that's the type of stuff you get some heads up on when you read the study guide. And you'll find in the first one, there's links to the African history. I found this a couple of years ago. It's like a 20 something hour long thing that BBC did. And the woman that does it is incredible. And once you know where it is, I mean, it's a BBC thing that's posted. You can go to it and read it at your leisure, but there's things in there that you'll want to come back. Oh, I'll remember where that is and come back to it. And so, Becky, more protocol? Or more
Sorry.
more stuff for them to know about the website, or?
The only thing I would add is the deep dives, they're listed there. We'll send information week to week that includes a link to the study guide, which we hope to have we're updating things in real time so that you've got the latest of everything. And so you've only got access to the first study guide right now. We hope to get ahead of you so that you have time to prepare for each class, because obviously the more you read before you come to class, the more you'll get out of the class. But the deep dives are optional Sunday programs. And we will be adding things as the semester goes. So you might want to check back just to make sure that you don't miss anything. And if you don't always check your email, I think you should change your habits just for the coming months, because that's our best way of getting the word out to you. And always feel free to call us at the numbers that we have for you. Don't be shy about that if anything doesn't make sense to you. But the deep dives will be updated. We're thinking about maybe adding some field trips if we can get enough interest. So that's an option too. But I think that's it. We've got a couple social media things that are on your thing, and I wish that we were more connected online than we have been. But so I would encourage any of you that are so inclined to, find each other online and it's all free, and I think and we've got a YouTube channel, so you can look at I think we said about that class recordings, but it's also got a neat playlist. We do a jazz night twice a month here that features our own Chris Gardner. And if you ever just need a playlist, it's a really good one. So bookmark that.
And just a couple other things. I wish I would have said that before I hit the button. Okay, so yeah, for tuition. If you have not
James,
caught
is that
up
what
with
you want to address?
But yes, later.
But yeah, so you can go to contribute, and this is how you can
Now, there's a different tuition
okay, so
form that hasn't been posted yet because it's
stay
complicated.
tuned, stay tuned.
Yeah, we're gonna get a separate thing, or we'll talk about it later
Mr.
today about
Carpenter?
the tuition option.
My first question was about the deep dives. Are those public? We could invite other people to attend here.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But the
And-
second thing is that we can accept your payment for tuition here in person. If you've got a credit card, cash, tap your phone to pay. You can take care of that later in the room as well. Just talk to me at some point during this meeting.
And the tuition thing is fairly complicated because we have like 45 people and we had to negotiate individually with most of them, and they're all paying different amounts because it's a sliding scale and it slides way down. I want to tell you that we've got to have people pay bills because you got a mortgage. You own this building. And so it's part of your responsibility to help chip in and pay for it. Chris, you left. I'll just tell people about the Progressive Network website because there are a couple of things I wanted to show them there. And then we're going to go to talking to the students, and we've got 2 hours to do it before 4 o'clock. So divide how many people are in the room, and that tells you how many seconds you have to talk. That the network site, Chris.
I know, I'm trying to.
So where he's showing you this network site, I want to show you some of the mechanical things that it would be of some interest to some people. that you have a link here under about that has our bylaws. We have laws, we have protocols, we have procedures, we have decision-making process. We're trying to build an institution that can be inherited, that makes sense for people to run it, that are trained up to be able to do so. And our matriculation now in terms of our leadership, who's the board, is drawn from our individual membership. So the individual members, which can be you, get to know each other. We've got one meeting, the bylaws call for us to have 2 statewide meetings a year. We have not been doing that. The pandemic sucked the wind out of our sails, and we've got to rebuild our membership, which is good. And that the members then amongst themselves nominate board members, and the board chooses the members to replace themselves. So we'll have the board, the 501c3 board is actually South Carolina's only progressive think tank and research facility. We have written and introduced legislation in 3 different agencies in South Carolina. I would venture to say that we're writing and passing more legislation and stopping more bad things than the Democratic Party is, because we look for a way to collaborate with people and to use forceful tactics, so to speak, that don't rely on the inside game, but the outside game. That's what we'll talk about as we finish the class, about how do you implement this stuff. And so on that same website you see the tax documents, all of our finances are exposed. 501c3s are that way. And that you see the calendar again, the donate stuff, e-list. Now the blog, pull down the blog, Chris. Becky is maintaining this in a terrific fashion. And you can see the business about this, with the Penn School that we circulated in the Beaufort area. And if you scroll down, you'll see one we did for Sumter. And Becky keeps that posted with activities that we do. Becky, got anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think that it's a really useful platform that you can link to on any other platforms. And I would encourage any writer types or anybody that's got something going on that is relevant to what we're doing here that wants to share. I invite you to submit something and I'll post it for you. And if you're really excited, I'll let you have the keys to the castle and you can post up on your own. But I think it's an underused tool that we have.
Back up, Chris, and go to the network site and go over to projects. Now, the projects is again, that's another work in progress, but you can see some of the things that we have, like the democracy toolkit. We've got the best data in the state, and that Cecil Rigby helped crunch it, and we kick it and crunch it and stomp it, and Irene, his better 3/4, that it is unimpeachable. You can lean on this stuff. And I'm going to give you one wow factor that explains how going every 2 years and pushing a button and hoping something good happens is kind of like going into a casino and playing against the house. The house wins. And in South Carolina, the Republicans now, since 2002, no, excuse me, 2002. Since 2002, they've had all the levers of power. They determine who you vote for, where you vote. And so this legislature that's seated now, 58% of them were elected last June, not in the general primary in November. 58%, a majority of the legislature elected last June by 10.3% of the voters in the Republican primary.
Yeah.
Only 3.8% of the Democrats even voted in the primary. 78% of all the seats were filled in the June primary. And so this thing that you continue to hear like a mantra, your vote counts. Your vote, every vote counts. But we can't tell people not to vote. We've all got to do the inside game and do it better than anybody else. And as we get down the road, you'll find out ways that we were so effective doing the inside game that they wrote bylaws to get rid of us in the Democratic Party. And so now we're going to do some introductions. Becky?
Can I just suggest, we've got food to eat and there was a disagreement about whether we should break and have food, and it seems rude to eat in front of people that are joining us online. On the other hand, that I know a lot of people drove here and maybe haven't had anything to eat, and although there's some snacks over there, what I think I'm gonna do, unless somebody jumps on me and prevents me from doing it, is I'm gonna just put some pasta and salad on the table now, and you can get up during introductions and kind of, if you're hungry now, help yourself, and if you want to eat later, we'll leave it out and try to keep it as warm as we can. So that's just,
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll make yourselves at home.
Okay.
And there's a tip basket over there next to the. And Cecil Cahoon is leaning against the little refrigerator with soda pop of beer. And Thomas, tell people who you are, why you're here.
My name's Thomas Hammond, you want me to hold it?
I'll hold it. Which host never turns with the mic.
My name's Thomas Hammond, I'm here as an alum of, was it the first class? But it was back in 2015, I don't know if it was the first or second.
Okay,
Uh,
it's worth coming back to, is what you're saying.
Yes. Well, I feel like I had to sort of go off into the wilderness for about a decade before I could come back and then actually start to implement these things. Take it a bit more seriously. I was very naive back then.
Thomas is a professional photographer going to dangerous places, taking good pictures.
Sometimes. Thank you.
Can I?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name's Janine Morrow. I use she, her pronouns. I immigrated to the US when I was 5 years old and grew up in Georgetown, South Carolina. Lived in Columbia for 9 years and moved to Colorado for 5. Just moved back last week. And I did a lot of food justice, ag justice, and community organizing work in Colorado. And I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and do, organize, support all of the awesome work happening in South Carolina. This is my home, my community. I'm staying here. I'm a mom now, so I'm a little bit more angry than I used to be. But yeah. Hi, I'm Pooja, UCLA pronouns. I'm a PhD student at USC on my second semester. I'm originally from Metro Atlanta, Georgia. So I only got to South Carolina in August of last year. Just in class, I'm trying to get more involved with organizing stuff. Kind of involved with organizing stuff. And I also don't know that much about South Carolina history, so I thought it'd be useful. I don't know how many of the in-person classes I can take because I'm actually teaching a class from 7 to 9 on Mondays. But I'm looking forward to learning all I can.
I'm Susan Robinson. I've lived in South Carolina 50 years. I grew up in Oregon, but I came here as a little girl from England when I was 9. However, I was born in Sri Lanka. And so just to give you a little tidbit, I came here, I was brought to America on the Sri Lankan quota, which my dad protested vigorously because it was, of course, a small quota for Sri Lanka. And he wrote to the embassy before we came and said, it's downright racism. She's a British subject, never had a Sri Lankan passport, just happened to be born there right after independence. So you see that our immigration laws have erased all of it. But I came today, I've known Brett for a long time. I remember once lending you our federally funded RSVP van when you were doing something for Grow years ago. Yeah, but I was a sporadic giver, but my son recently moved back here after growing up here, but leaving and having a professional life and a marriage in another state. And I said to him, I'm going to give you a scholarship to the Modjeska Simkins class because I think you need to know those people. You need to get in with the right group and learn about South Carolina if you're going to come back here and be a professional. So here I am with him persuading me, Mom, now you need to take the class. So here I am.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle and my pronouns are she, her. And I have been in South Carolina all of my now 45 years. And I guess to go with what Cecil was saying, when you know better, you should do better. And I knew very early on that there was major injustice around me, and I just navigated kind of passively through my little existence. And so now it's just time to do better. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here as well.
Hi, I'm Maya. I was born in Ecuador. And I lived for almost 20 years in Spain. Now I'm living in South Carolina since 2022, and I feel like this great need of knowing more the place that where I'm living and doing more. Maybe I have so many preconceptions about the place that I was coming to live because probably from a Spanish perspective, well, South Carolina is not the most progressive state. So I think I wanted to prove myself that I was wrong and I could find a new place to feel identified and to make more. I used to be a teacher and a researcher in Spain, studying international relations. And here, well, I'm not doing the same, but I want to do more than what I'm doing now. Thank you.
Welcome home, Maya.
Good afternoon.
Y'all say,
Yeah.
I'm from Columbia, I'm gonna be in person, or I'm from somewhere else, and I'm gonna watch on Zoom, so we get an idea.
I'm Fran Cardwell. I was born and raised in Columbia. But my roots go really deep on Edisville Island, where my mother's family's from. And so I'm there at least half the time since I retired, teaching in Columbia 23 years ago. I am a hopeless empath. I am a bleeding heart. A number of years back, I was Republican just because my parents were Republicans. They were not kind of Republicans, but we know. And so and a friend said to me one day, a couple of decades back, friend, you're a bleeding heart. There's no such thing as a bleeding heart Republican. So, anyway, I mainly have extension twisted my arm, but really because when I was just a kid, like 19 at USC, with a newborn baby and working and going to school and a job, I would read about Brett Bursey and James Felder in the newspaper, raising hell, social justice, human rights, civil rights, whatever. And I would go, wow, if I were not tied down with a baby and a job and going to school, this is what I would be doing. So one of the reasons I'm here, besides the fact that I come for jazz and it's awesome and all that, is that, I have this, maybe I'll learn a little bit of civil disobedience from y'all. And it's 76, who knows, maybe you can get arrested for it. I'm trying to make the world a better place. After I retired, I spent a good many years going to Haiti, where I was on the board of an orphanage there. We raised 20 girls and did a lot of other stuff. And I also co-sponsor a Haitian orphan who is here in Columbia.
Thank you, Fran.
Looking forward to meeting y'all.
About God. And so, Wes, let's pass it down that road there.
Hey, everybody, I'm West, like direction, he, him. And I moved to Columbia for college about 10 years ago, and I've loved it here ever since. Been sticking around. And I came here to primarily learn. I was mad as hell after the November election, I'll be honest. What really sucked was I had some friends over that night, and the feeling of despair on their faces going into the next day. We all had to go to work. A couple of them had to call out. They were just feeling so rough. And that really stuck with me. For a long time, I've been politically minded, politically interested, but I've been pretty politically silent. And I was tired of sitting on the sidelines. So I made a resolution then that I was going to learn everything I possibly could about my state, about my city, about county district, whatever. And hopefully do something about it here before too long. So thank you all for having me.
Thank you for that.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alex. I am a relative lifelong Columbia resident, other than about a 5-year stint in Colorado. I first heard about the school in 2016, when right around the time that now Columbia kind of reorganized, and kind of acquaintances and friends at different times been through the school, and everybody spoke very highly of it, but never really felt like I had the time to put into it, and then made the decision this year that I'm never gonna have the time to put into it. Gotta make the time for it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm making the time this year. So I'll be in person as much as I can, Zoom when I can't. Looking forward to that all that I can. Looking forward to making connections and continuing to mobilize in different circles and hopefully
it will just have me off when I can. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Wasn't prepared. Bernie Wiggins, hi, former journalism professor at the University of South Carolina, him. And, I'm here because Brett Will is a tenacious, punker. Had someone who he's known for a while. I've known, Brett and Becky for quite a while. I think I was there when you all were getting a new press at the Grove.
1981.
It was a long time ago.
No, that was Carol Campbell. The governor bought us a printing press. We beat him in federal court for $50,000.
And I was there.
That's a story we'll get to.
I was there watching you haul it with a winch up the side of the building, and it was a great story. Anyway, so I'm here because it's about time. So outraged at where the country is right now, and I want to do as much as I can and find out how Brett has done everything that he's done, and the others here, Jim and others. And so I'm so happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. So thank you.
My name is James Smith. I am from French Camp, California, and raised in Stockton and Linden, California. I live in Blackwood now. I am a retired United States Army chaplain and pastor, and I am retired. So that's its significance. And I'm here pretty much because of that blue sign up there. We fight today for a better tomorrow. I love to fight. I love it. And so you all are gonna teach me how to do it on a different level, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Hello, my name is Alicia. I stay in the Columbia area, so I will be mainly on Zoom during the course. I'm here to learn more about South Carolina history.
My name's Jessica, I'm 27, and well, my pronouns are she and her personal, and I'm from Columbia. I will be attending on Zoom, so unfortunately I won't be seeing everybody in person, but I'd like to run for public office, and I thought that it would be really beneficial to me if I could have like as comprehensive of a knowledge of South Carolina and like all the different perspectives and like political stances you can take. So I Googled basically just progressive, and this is what first came up, and I came up. I decided to go ahead and apply for the class. I've been like really shy my whole life. And one thing that you said really spoke to me about the like bleeding heart. And the shyness doesn't like benefit anybody. So I'm trying to like really put myself out there, go big or go home, public office, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm really looking forward to working with everybody and picking up whatever knowledge you have.
Folks stand up. It's hard for folks on Zoom to see who's speaking.
I'm glad to be here. And I was persuaded to come by my friend of over 40 years. And I'm here to learn. And I'm getting my feet wet today. I just, want to see what it's all about. And I grew up here in Columbia. I was born 617 Assembly Street, where the Coliseum is now. Went to school on Blossom Street, Saxon School. And, California Dreaming was a place that we played. We walked through there and, I just loved Columbia. And, I was born the year after her school, 1947, Modjeska Simkins School. So it's good to know. And I thank y'all.
Thank you.
My name is Mani Saniviratna. I am from Sri Lanka. I have been in Colombia for the last 46 years. I have been a teacher. My son participated in this class, and he is the one who told me that I should do it too. I am retired now. Sips and I were teachers together.
People say that like it's an excuse we don't have to put you to work.
So here I am. I don't know much about history of South Carolina or in the United States because I didn't grow up here. But I would just love to learn. It is time to learn now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I'm Opal Brown. I was born and raised in South Carolina. I went to nursing school at the old Columbia Hospital, the diploma program. And when I was there in my freshman year, one of my classmates was Harriet Hancock. So I go back, I've gotten to know, I have acquired quite a history over these years. But then let's see, I went to, I was very ambitious. I went back to school, got my BSc degree, master's and a PhD, ended up teaching nursing at University of South Carolina. I'm retired now. Let's see, I'm basically a Democrat, or to the left of the Democratic Party. I did spend, for those of you, one of you from Ecuador, I spent 2 months in Ecuador after my undergraduate degree in nursing. Between my master's, 2 months, they had a big epidemic of polio. And in my experience at the Old Columbia Hospital, we had a lot of polio in the United States. But by the time I got my undergraduate degree in 1967, there was this big epidemic in Ecuador. Polio was not a big issue with them, so they did not use their resources for that. They used it appropriately for malaria and malnutrition, the things that were going on. But they did have a massive immunization program, which was very effective. But the World Health Organization sent another nurse in me to work with them to take care of the acutely ill during all of this time. So that was a very important experience for me. As I said, I've been around for quite a bit. I've been active in this organization off and on through the years, for at least a couple of decades.
Yes, ma'am.
That's correct. And I've been active in marches. I had my last march in DC when I was 80 years old in 2016. I believe.
Are you one of those 150-year-old?
Got a century. But I'm not demented yet. I'm fairly good. Cerebral activity and still am very, very active. So I'm glad to be a part of this.
And then, Candace, you and Caitlin get ready to unmute your neck.
I'm Mona Fleming, and my pronouns are she, her. I drove in from Pendleton, South Carolina today. I live in Anderson County. And I learned about this class from Gabby because I do some work with Pro Truth South Carolina, having recently started an advocacy group, Advocates for Intellectual Freedom in Pendleton, the Anderson, Clemson area. Yes, I went to the other university in the other state. But I didn't wear orange today. I will be participating via Zoom. I'm not going to drive in 2 hours every week, although I hope to get to know y'all through Zoom. The advocacy group has been very, very active on the against book bans with our public library, our school district. I'll be back in Columbia Tuesday at the state board meeting. I was in a protest in Pendleton against Musk and Trump and all that. Lindsey Graham actually has an office, Gabby's heard this or saw it, in Pendleton within walking distance of my house. And I had gone a couple of weeks. I was trying to go weekly, besides my calls to DC, to Biggs, who's my new representative. I'm in a very red part. I grew up in Oconee County, which at one time recently was the #1 red state in the county in the state. It's now switched over to Pickens County, and I'm in Anderson, so it's a tri-county area. A lot of, when people say, "Oh, you're a liberal," I say, "No, I'm a progressive," but remember, Jesus was a liberal. I was just raised by parents like that. My mother was a public health nurse in Oconee County. So
anyway, going back to Lindsey Graham's office, I said, I'm gonna walk up there every day, not every day, but about 3 times a week and talk to these people and get to know them. And one of the young men was very nice. He said he would tell Lindsey Graham, but he never wrote anything down. And one day, the other guy in there came out and interrupted our conversation like he was gonna try to change my mind. And I finally said, listen, don't judge my IQ by my accent. I grew up in Oconee County and I'm never, no diction class in America is gonna change my accent. Preach it. And he said, oh, I'm not doing that, ma'am. And he tried to argue with me. We finished. I left. I went back the next week and he tried to kick me out. So as on our Strands page, I posted that joy is keeping your butt planted in the seat when Lindsey Graham's, one of his office people, tells you to leave, but I did drop the F-bomb. I try not to use the vernacular, but my divorce, traumatic divorce years ago, brought that into my being. I just told him I was an effing United States citizen and I had a right to come in there and tell him what to tell my senator. So anyway, that's me in a nutshell. I have friends who've told me passion's not a sin, so.
Candace, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, and tell people who you are, and why you're here.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Candace.
Hello, everyone. My name's Candace Dorr. The reason that I, got involved with the Modjeska Simkins School is because of Mr. Brett Bursey. I met him almost 2 years ago today, and it was a really exciting time for me. I graduated from Spelman College. I majored in political science. I thought life would turn out a little bit different for me. I thought I'd probably live in DC. I thought maybe I'd be a lobbyist or an attorney, and things kind of changed for me. I ended up moving back home to Beaufort, South Carolina, where I'm born and raised. And I struggled to find people who had the same interest as me. It's different once you're no longer in a school setting to find people that share the same interests. So I was really excited when I met Mr. Bursey because to me it's like he already had a community together and he welcomed me. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm really excited and looking forward to this semester and meeting all of you.
Candace, you're gonna be the host at Penn Center with Bernadette, correct?
Yes, I am.
That's terrific. That's terrific. And so Bernadette has been working with us with the Gullah Farmers Co-op, which is on St. Helena Island. It's a local cooperative for people to try, they actually doing something to keep their truck farm alive in the winter. They've got a freezing facility and whatnot. Her mother's executive director there and her sister's working at Penn. And so it's a family affair. And we're really looking forward to getting back down to Penn Center and seeing Candace and family. Thank you, Candace. And let's hear it, please. Christina, are you next? Ms. Johnson, are you there? Okay. How about you, Caitlin?
Hey everyone. My name's Caitlin Horton, pronouns she, her. I'm dialing in from Greenville, South Carolina. I grew up in South Carolina. Currently, I am a case manager for youth experiencing homelessness, and with the increasing criminalization of homelessness, I'm hoping that having a better understanding of our state's history and laws will help me better advocate for their needs. I'm really optimistic about hopefully attending classes in person towards the summer, and then I'll get to see all of y'all in person. Thank you.
Now, so let's go back to the here.
Hey everyone, my name is Amanda. I'm originally from Texas. I've lived there. I was there for 15 years. I've been here for 15 years. All of the same reasons you guys are here are the same reasons I'm here. We spent a lot of time talking about the changes we need to make and not a lot of time doing. And I think there needs to be more of us out there doing, and this is a course that I believe is going to give us the tools and the education necessary to do that. While also making friends and having fun, which is a huge thing. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm happy to be here. I'm friends with Josh and Gabby, and honestly, it's kind of because of them that I'm here. So yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Bernadette Hampton, and I am from Beaufort, South Carolina. I am a high school math teacher. I was retired, but the need required that I come back, so I'm back in the classroom at the alternative school. And I am inspired and motivated by the work and the life of Modjeska. So I wanted to continue, and as was said earlier, in order to bring about systemic change, it has to go through legislation. And I'm excited about the Progressive Network and the legislation that they have worked on and continue to work on. So that's why I'm here. And I already been through the school, but I didn't get all that I could get travel and everything. So I wanted to come back and get another deep dive.
My name is Antonia. I was born in Greenwood, South Carolina, but I moved to Columbia when I was like 2 years old. So I'm resident of Columbia, South Carolina. I'm a first generation Mexican American, so I'm a proud daughter to immigrants from Mexico. I grew up here. My parents had a restaurant on Decker Boulevard, Mexican restaurant, Temple A, if anyone knows it. I went to the University of South Carolina. I have my bachelor's in civil engineering, so I'm a practicing structural engineer. I'm also currently a master's student at University of South Carolina getting my master's degree. Lifetime resident, I don't plan on moving anytime soon or later, so I wanted to get to know more about the history of this state particularly and get more involved. So I'm excited to be here.
James Carpenter, and I live in Columbia, here in South Carolina. I'll be attending in person. And I use pronoun he and they, also she, depends on the situation. I learned to enjoy history late in my life. I went to a really not very good private school in Georgia and then moved to here. And it wasn't until I got into my second round of college that I discovered a good history teacher and found out, oh, wow, this is important stuff. So what I know now from my own personal studies of history is that history does not give you hope, not particularly, but it can give you determination. And I've been sort of behind the scenes, lurking around the edges of Modjeska School for a while. And this year it's just time. I'm glad to be here.
Can I just add that he just got married?
Hi, I'm Layla. I am from Columbia, South Carolina, and I recently moved back just this past summer. I was away for 10 years, grad school and work. And yeah, I learned about the school. We're coming to the post-election conversation, and yeah, I'm really excited to be here and be learning. And I'm also involved with Soda City Mass Block, so looking to make some connections for that fledgling organization and continue organizing. So
And Layla, where will you be attending the school?
I will be coming here in person as much as I can.
So people remember to tell me where you went to school.
Do you want to get some people online?
Yeah, well, we're gonna call up Bronwyn. Bronwyn, are you there? I see you. You're alive and now you're talking.
Hi, I'm Bronwyn. I grew up in Sumter, but moved to Columbia and have been living there since college. Yeah, the reason I just decided to join this and take this class was just wanting to learn more, just realizing like how little we know, and just contextually with South Carolina, specifically where we grew up, and how important that really is to the decisions we make and what we care about. So just expanding and exploring that more is kind of why I'm here.
Thank you, Bob. Are you gonna Zoom from Sumter?
Yeah, I should be on Zoom for the class, I believe.
There's gonna be an in-person class in Sumter. We'll send you information about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, who's got the thingy? Go for it.
Hey y'all, I'm Annabelle Robertson. I'm a local attorney. Have a small family law practice in West Columbia and got extremely involved in politics after the election of the first current regime. And I'm here because it's long overdue. I came to my first meeting of the South Carolina Progressive Network meeting the week after that election and started organizing, having no clue what I was doing. And met some really wonderful people. Some of you are here, and including Sam. I've been meaning to take class for a while. Very glad to be here. It just kind of happened to stumble across my feed, and I wanted to take this class before it becomes illegal for classes like this to be taught. Bottom line, and I think that could become sooner than later. So here I am, finally, and glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sabrina Johnson Green. I'm from Beaufort. I left and I was in the military for 24 years. I was in the best branch, the Air Force. Attend the Penn Center classes. Because I heard from Bernadette, we're in the League of Women Voters together. I'm now a teacher now. I thought I retired, so I teach fifth grade.
Bless
Keep my energy up. They asked me how I run at 50, but it works. I joined because I think that we're underrepresented in our town. Every time I hang out downtown, the first thing they say is, "Oh, you're from here? And you grew up here?" And it's because they usually don't see us. And so I need people more knowledge to get all people more represented. I told Grandma to go run and I'll help you. Go make some, so we can make some changes because our town is changing drastically. And we're being pushed further and further out.
Yeah.
So it's to learn to try to make a change to make things better. Because we don't need to be unfair for everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. On March 14th, 1960, there were two college students, Simon Bowie and Talmadge Neal, who integrated the Eckerd's drugstore. My uncle is Reverend Dr. Simon P. Bowie, and I am a military spouse, so we've kind of lived all over. I was an Air Force brat. However, I did marry an Army colonel, so I did kind of marry down some would say. So well, the housing is better, of course. But I am a federal prosecutor. As of next week, depending on how things go, I may actually matriculate back to UCMJ because I see what is going on in this country. And I do believe to whom much is given, much is required. I've sat on the sidelines for too long. Children in college, vet school, law school. So this is my time. I do believe that based on my family's history, Joseph H. Rainey was my fourth great grandfather. So I have an obligation to my family. And quite honestly, I see the bullshit that is going on with the federal government. It is 10 times worse than what you see on TV. And so I think that it is time for us to stop meeting, for us to stop coalescing, for us to stop having these Holy Ghost filled moments.
Let's fight.
And nothing is done. I'm with you. I'm ready to fight. Yeah, I'm ready to win. We've got to strategize. We can't wait until 6 months before an election and we just allow the nepotism that is so pervasive within the Democratic Party. It is time to call them out. If you're gonna go big or go home. So I am so excited to be here. I'm going to try to make it in person as much as I can. But after my boss, Adair Burrows, was fired last week, all bets are off. So now that I will be matriculating back into the comforts of Fort Jackson as a prosecutor that will just deal with silly little boy and girl stuff, I feel very comfortable speaking out publicly, and I look forward to meeting people. And just people, yeah, we gotta This is a hot mess. We have got to do that.
Thank you.
Well, my name's Lydia and I resonate really hard with Coach the James where I'm a fighter and I don't care what you call me. So I've been trying to figure out what I'm gonna say this whole time because like this experience I'm feeling like is gonna be exactly what I've needed for like my entire life. I was raised extremely conservatively. My dad's a pastor. I lived in Charleston on 2 different plantations as a kid, because my dad caretook plantations, like privately owned ones, so that was weird for history for me. I was homeschooled in a very, if y'all saw that like Duggar documentary, I like first 10 seconds of it, I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I now have like made this crazy progression to like, I'm a crazy anarchist. So I just really care about people a lot. And I own a hair salon and I pretty much run it like a nonprofit. I just really want to see like people liberated and people be free. So yeah, I came out of the Christianity thing because I was like trying to live like Jesus and everybody got mad at me for it, you know? So I thought about like running for offices and things like that, but the way that I look doesn't really work for that. And also I feel like I'm better like behind the scenes. So I really, really want to get like into deep like organizing because I don't want to be a public face. So yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm so excited to meet all of you.
I'm gonna get a couple people on the screen up there ready to go, and let's see who has not. Ms. Eagleson, are you ready to talk?
Say it again, I don't.
Brent, tell us why you're here,
Yes.
where you are.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We do.
Good. My name's Bryn Eagleson. I grew up in Frederick, Maryland, and I moved to Michigan in 2000 for my job. And I retired about 3 years ago. I worked in the biomedical research field. And around that same time, my husband and I actually purchased an old Victorian home in Newberry, South Carolina. I call it our money pit because it needs a lot of work. But we've been sort of traveling back and forth between Michigan and South Carolina. And I've known for a couple of years now that I want to do something volunteering or becoming involved in the community. So I've been sort of half-heartedly looking around, but now that we've sold our house in Michigan, we just sold it last month. I've started doing a deeper dive into looking for opportunities. And I came across the South Carolina Progressive Network website, which led me to the Modjeska School website. And I looked at the description of the school. I saw school and that really popped out because I consider myself a lifelong learner, which I think we all do, honestly. But I love taking classes. I always have. And when I read the description, I thought, I have to do this because as many of you, after the election, I was just outraged, and I'm outraged where our country is and where it's headed. And I am motivated to do something about it. And if I want to do something in South Carolina where we're going to be living, then I need to learn as much as I can. So I'm really excited to be here. Newberry isn't that far away from Columbia, so I have no excuse for not coming in at least on a few occasions. So hoping to meet a lot of you face to face.
Thank you, Brent. I'm gonna take someone from the room, but Christina and Freeman are next, so y'all get ready. Who's next out here? I don't know.
Hi, I'm Irene Rigby. This is my handsome other half over here, the Renaissance man. I am from a little town up in Anderson, called Slabtown, not too far from Pendleton. I am a native South Carolinian. My folks have been in South Carolina, North Carolina for 300 years. We were farm folks. Cecil says she's a mountain. You'll tell somebody, what is she? He says she's from mountain people. So I'm from Mountain. But I'm gonna tell you, when Brett talked about civics education, which we used to get, I'm 69 years old, or I will be in March. And we had a civics class and a good civics teacher, although we would make fun of him because he would talk about laissez-faire. They were about laissez-faire. But I learned from him about the action you can take, even a little one, can make a difference. When I graduated from high school, I got all sorts of gifts from congressmen and senators. They used to do that back then. They'd send you a pen or something. And I kept their cards. I'm a rat packer. I keep everything, and I kept their cards. That summer, my father had gotten sick. My father was a World War II veteran, and he had had a finger blown off, almost. There was just a little bit left of it. And he also had what we know now as PTSD, and my father medicated it with alcohol. But my father had gotten to where it was pretty bad, and his health was bad. So my mother took him to the VA hospital in Piggins. And the lady who was the secretary said, he's just got a little bit of a finger, and that's all that's wrong with him. We can't help him. He doesn't earn, he doesn't, if he had a leg blowed off, an arm, we could do something for him, but we can't. Well, when we came back home, my mother said, they wouldn't even listen to us. So I remember from civics class about writing letters to your congressmen and representatives. And I sat down and I wrote letters. One of them was to Strom Thurmond, one of them was to William Jennings Bryan Dorn, and I can't remember who the other one was. But I wrote those letters and I said, my father may not have anything wrong with him physically, but a little piece of a finger. But my father gave his mind and his heart to this country fighting. And he sacrificed his sanity for this country. And I said, can you not do something for him? Within about a month, all the people that were working in that VA office were taken out, except for the secretary that said, we didn't have enough, my father didn't have enough wrong with him. That secretary, when my mama, and they said, go back up there. My mother took my father back up there, and that secretary said, yes, we will see him and tell your daughter not to write any more letters. So you see, knowledge is power, even when you do a little thing like words on a paper. That is why this school is important. That's why I graduated last year. That's why I'm going again this year, is because I want to go back to that well of wonderful, refreshing water of truth. But I want to tell you one trick. Those readings, you'll look at those. When I looked at them, I crossed my eyes because I'm a slow reader. But I would take it a little piece a day, a little bite a day. And those readings will also fill you up, because I thought Dr. Green went all that trouble putting those things down there. Got to read them. And it makes you feel fuller when you do the whole thing. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Sorry, we're gonna get Christina online if she's available. Christina, are you able to introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I am Christina Johnson. I'm a native of St. Helena Island in Beaufort County, and I will be attending the sessions at Penn Center. I'm a retired school teacher who has recently gone back to work, so I too am also in the classroom with middle schoolers, and I do love to learn. And I did have a similar feeling when I looked at the readings that were listed. But I'm looking forward to learning a whole lot and just communing with people who are like-minded.
Tina?
Yes.
And Freeman, are you able to join us? Miss Loretta? Oh, never mind. I'm sorry.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get it. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. My name is Freeman Stoddard, he/him pronouns. I grew up in Anderson, South Carolina, but I'll be attending classes remotely from Greenville, South Carolina. I went to Clemson University, majored in history, and spent a few years as a journalist after that. And I want to take this class just to kind of reconnect with the activism community in South Carolina. And it's been mentioned a few times here today, but I agree that knowledge is power. I love learning. I love learning about history, especially the parts that aren't always taught in public schools. So I'm looking forward to learning, connecting, and just figuring out the best ways I can grow.
Thank you, Freeman.
I'm here, so Loretta Belden McKelvey. My pronouns are she and her. I have to get used to saying that. My pronouns are she and her. And Irene and Freeman, who is just there. I'm going to say that again. That's what happens when you come last. Knowledge is power. And I had the good fortune of attending the 10th anniversary of the Modjeska Simkins School. And just listening to people that were there and the telling of the story, I knew I needed these tools. I'm a retired dentist. After 40 years, I kind of know a little of healthcare. And I think just education is power. I would like to see the community empowered in order to be able to advocate for their own healthcare. When you realize we talk about injustices, injustices are done every day in health, as they are in other fields. You do not put on a coat or a jacket or a uniform and change who you are. And I think sometimes it's not intentional. If attention is not called to it, then it gets ignored. And as I'm a senior now, I know when people are talking more about, prolonging life and who decides. There may be laws, but I had an awesome time talking with Lydia, and now I realize what we have in common. She's a preacher's kid, and so am I. There's something that's lawful, and then there are things that are just.
Yes.
And I think we need to see things that are just. And I think I'll have to say.
My cousin.
Hi, I'm Cecil Rigby. I'm a 2023 graduate of Modjeska School. I attended again last year with my wife. She graduated, and we're doing it again. One of the neat things I learned, of course, I had found out through high school that this country was built by the landed gentry, those who had been given land that didn't belong to them. We'll hear about that. But it was built really on the backs of those people and the slaves that were brought into this country. Folks, today we have a new landed gentry. It's sickening. What I do know is that those people back in colonial days who were oppressed have a echo here in this room today. They echo here. Those who were dispossessed, those who were oppressed, forgotten, disenfranchised. We're all here today still because of a new landed gentry. And I do know one thing. Education can change us, and it can change a country. It just happens one person at a time. And that's a long haul. So don't give up. I keep coming back because I keep learning more. And I'm proud to be among so many vibrant people who are about the same thing, especially welcome to young people. I didn't find my voice until about 8 years ago. I'm 68 years old. I was secretary of Greenville High School Young Republicans. You know why they elected me? Because I could spell. I've been relieved of all that these days. All I know is the Bible tells us, sleepers awake, awake. And I take that, I do bring my faith into my politics. I have a right to. But let's not think for a minute that we're not being political. We don't have to be partisan in the school. But education will make you political. And I'm looking forward to finding that out even more for myself. And I hope you discover new things about yourself too.
Thank you.
Okay, I didn't know if y'all had some online questions. Hi, everybody. I feel pretty bad my back is folks. My name is Rhonda Grego. I'm family from the Florence, South Carolina area. So some of you talked about being farm folks. That's my background, first generation college student, with the generations after that not going to college either. So I think there should be a name for that, but that tells you something about the background that I come from. I'm a retired educator. I left the state to get my graduate education in a field called rhetoric, which is all about how people argue and persuade. And boy, there's a lot of fuel for that analysis in the news these days, right? Came back into the state, was working at University of South Carolina as an English professor in the early 90s when the Commission on Higher Ed in South Carolina declared that there shouldn't be certain kinds of basic entry-level courses for students in four-year state-funded institutions. And as someone who grew up in Florence, South Carolina, went to historically Black junior high and high school, was schooled by some very dedicated teachers in those schools about race and education in the state of South Carolina, I recognized that for what it was, which was lack of access, lack of representation, and knew that access, of course, is more than being let in the door. If there aren't structures there to support you, once you get in the door, how are you going to stay? And so that was really what started my career in activism in higher education. I started one of the first supplemental writing programs in the country because I knew there would still be students coming in the door who needed help staying there. That program now is all over the country and in Canada and in South Africa. So I know, and then I moved to Benedict College, met people like Marjorie Hammett, who used to be some of you may know Marjorie. I was very fortunate to know Marjorie and learned some more things about activism within higher ed while I was at Benedict College with Marjorie and some other great people. I ended my career at Midlands Technical College, working with the newly created School of English and Humanities and advocating for value of English and Humanities for students in a technical college. A very needed message there as well. So I know how to do activism within higher education, but then I retired, right? And so the number one of two or three reasons, maybe even more, that I'm here is I want to learn how to do activism outside of education circles where I know the landscape. I also know that in order to be an activist, you have to know the systems better than those you're trying to activate against, right? And so I think that's knowing the South Carolina history. I mean, I went to junior high in Williams High School at a time when the old Gilmore Sims South Carolina history book was used. And I don't know, any of y'all been around long enough to know what I'm talking about, but it didn't cover some things. There were some pages missing. And I've self-educated myself over the years, of course. But that's not the same as getting the whole landscape. And the other thing I know it's not the same as, I love being in classrooms with people. That's one of the things that was a hallmark of my education. I did a lot of administration work, but I always said to people, my first love is walking in the classroom, new group of people, a chance to learn with others is just, you can't trade some of that, right? One of the greatest compliments a student ever gave me on a teacher evaluation was, Dr. Grego always seemed really glad when she walked in the classroom door. And she always seemed to want to know, what did we think? And that was what she really wanted to know. What did we think? And that comes from that love of being in a room with other learners. So I'm really glad to be here. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
My name's John Danes. I'm a damn Yankee. I came down here 50 years ago, and lived out in Lexington County for 20 years, and the last 30 here in the city. I never heard of the South Carolina Progressive Network until a year and a half ago. That was when Brett Bursey gave a talk at a local club that I belong to. And he mentioned the website. I went on the website. I looked over the course, looked over the data set and information, more and more learned about it, and I decided this was a good thing to get involved in. I don't have any history of activism in politics. I voted in every election, but I have a record of having very few of my votes count in the long run. And so anyway, I'm looking forward to learning more about the history of the state and participating in the organization.
Good afternoon. My name's Keith Gray. I'm down from Lancaster. I escaped Central Florida 21 years ago. Been really happy to be up here, even as red as it is. And I've been a Democratic Party official for 10 years. Ran for office twice up there. Obviously didn't win, but met Brett back during the hearings on evaluating the new voting machines. And got a very early tour of the Modjeska house. Stayed in touch, and this is going to be my fourth time for taking the class.
And that's not because Keith is stupid, it's because.
Thanks. Because every cycle is different. There's different presenters. But yes, we covered some of the basics, but sometimes it's a different presenter covering a given topic, which gives you a different perspective and context. So anyway, I love being here. And like some other people said, these are my people. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Haley Weaver. I will be attending classes in here unless something happens with my child, because I am a mom, 3-year-old. But I am here because I started an organizational group, Peace and Progress, South Carolina, and we're the ones that held the 2 rallies at the State House for the 1551 movement. So we not knowing where to go, what to do, who was actually organizing, so we decided, like, let's go ahead, me and my fiance step up and have this. We're really focused on it being like a community outreach where someone can post on the page about a rally, an event, an organization that can help them. We want to build one another together in our community and help make it stronger. There's so much division across the board. But we have no backing, no experience, anything like that. So we really are just diving right in. I just want to make sure that I took this class so I can actually learn about everything that has occurred. The people that have dealt with it before can educate me on ways of doing everything. We've made some good progress so far. We were invited to the Conservation Coalition, where we met some of our elected officials who are going to be sitting down with us. There's some meetings. So we're trying to push our way and keep everyone together and help fight, you know, just in general. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not a public speaker.
Hello, Alan Sattler, and I am Keith Gray's chauffeur and backup member. I get his name. I'm originally from Connecticut, came to South Carolina 38 years ago. and I call myself a naturalized person. So I do a lot of things in the community. I've got positions in both our local Democratic Party and the state Democratic Party. I've been treasurer of our Revolution South Carolina, which we have dissolved and gave the funds to Progressive Network here. This will be, I think, my third time auditing this course. So, and like what Keith said, it's different every time. And it may even be things that you heard before, but you hear them again and it's just different. It just strikes you in a different way, and that's all I can say about that, but it's worth coming back here. Thank you.
I'll personally have people behind me, so I don't have that many. But I'm Jen Myers, she, her pronouns. I'm actually here not just to learn, but for what's already happened in this room. Y'all are beautiful people with rich life experiences and generational experiences, and I think there's just huge value for me personally to just be in a room with y'all and then also be able to learn everything that we're gonna go through together. So I'll be here in person as much as I can. I do travel a tad for the little bit of work I have left, as it's changed a lot since in the past couple weeks. I do mental health, suicide prevention, and trauma-informed work nationally, and have been doing international work for a while. So that's all. Well, I should say this group needs to, I gotta stand by them to say this. I was born in Sumter, South Carolina. I'm not from South Carolina. Why am I not from South Carolina? I was only here for a year. So what's in Sumter that you get kicked out for? Air Force Base. Right? So, yeah, Shaw Air Force Base. I was born at Shaw. You guys are all talking Air Force over here, and I had to make sure. That was in the Air Force. We got kicked out pretty quickly. So within the first year, my dad worked for the White House Communications Agency, so I had the privilege of being a 3-year-old with really rusty, stained jeans, meeting some of our presidents and just having a variety of different experiences that way, which I think is super cool, but also, kind of fuels a little bit of what I like to do, living in that space. So I just still want to say y'all right. I moved here in 2011. I used to work at the University of South Carolina. And so. Okay, have you moved on?
That's all.
Did you need the mic? You don't want the mic? Oh, gosh, you.
Hi, everyone. I checked y'all in, so you're probably gonna be. My name is Josh Dunn. This is my second year taking the Modjeska School. I'm a Columbia South Richland Memorial Hospital native, I'd say. Product of Richland 1 and Lexington 2 schools, Airport High School, if you know, you know. Winthrop University alone, where I studied English literature. I am gainfully employed. After that, surprise, surprise, I went to USC for my master's program. I'm a first generation college student. I am a trailer park kid. I am the son of a severely mentally ill person. And for whatever reason, I've been blessed to have had a life where I at least had enough sense. I found a funny picture in the state newspaper from when I was 16, and it just is like, local 16-year-old Josh Dunn yells at neo-Nazis at the State House grounds. This is great. They published my first and last name, and I was on it. I was went on to, take my sleeping bag to the State House grounds for Occupy. Briefly thought electoral politics could save us with Bernie Sanders, and then watched the Democratic Party sort of coalesce to destroy him and his chances at a progressive Democratic Party. Came to Modjeska School because of Chris Gardner at a time when I was really struggling with how to, really just how to process the genocide in Gaza. And since then, I've been sucked into the volunteer, and I will be excited to y'all into the volunteer sort of grant as well. And I'm very happy to be here, so.
Hey, as mentioned before, I'm Gabby Zerlo. I am a staff member here at the Progressive Network. I've been here for about a year. This will be my, well, almost a year. It'll be my second time taking the Modjeska Simkins School. Like Josh, I'm a trailer park kid. I grew up in North South Carolina, historically Black high school, elementary school. I got sent to private school in the 8th grade. My brother had learning disabilities. I went to Orangeburg Prep. If you know Nikki Haley, she went there. It was a huge culture shock. And now that as I got older, I realized how fortunate I was and still am to be from a place like North South Carolina in Orangeburg County, because I was afforded a very diverse and honest look at what the world is. I lived in Greenville for a while in North Carolina as well. I came back to the Columbia area. I'm still in North for a little while longer, but I came back to the Columbia area about 2 or 3 years ago and was looking for my first opportunity out. I was looking at Michigan. I was going to go back to graduate school in the Northeast. And I met Josh, and he told me about these cool people who had been in South Carolina for 50 plus years, and they were making a lot of trouble at a place called Grove. And they had a school called the Modjeska Simkins School. And I looked at Modjeska Simkins and saw that she was a hell of a woman, and she fought against tuberculosis and public health, and she did it with people who looked and sounded and came from the same people that I sound and look and came from. And this has been a place that has taught me how to put into action the feelings and the fight that I have for the people and the real life of the rural counties of South Carolina. I've gone from just volunteering in schools and just being upset at censorship and the misuse of public funds for our public schools to now being able to, like Irene and Mona said, go up and talk to legislators, write letters, and learning how to be an effective citizen and effective advocate for those things that mean so much to me and to others as well. And so I'm so happy to see all of you here, and especially getting to know you on your interviews and your applications and the amazing talents and knowledge that you already have. I just know that this is going to be a wonderfully special class. And I am so looking forward to what kind of good fights and trouble we can get up to.
Yeah,
I have the most important announcement.
well, listen.
Becky just referred to it in passing. But on the 1st and 3rd Thursdays, everybody, this place is converted into a jazz venue. So the 1st and 3rd Thursday of each month, please come out. You will hear musicians, sometimes there are 14 of them out there, doing a jazz clinic. No cover charge. We ask for donations so we can give the band something. And Red can't sell the wine. He gives you the wine, but you got to give him something back.
The napkins, yeah. We don't
1st and 3rd, please come out. You will really, this is the only place in town. You can get free jazz twice a month.
And it's not just jazz, it's the people that show up, we don't know who's coming.
No.
And one night it'll be like dominant blues, and then another night it's like woodgy.
Okay.
8 to 10.
Oh, 6, no, in the winter, it's what?
It's 8 to 10.
8 to 10.
In the winter, it's 8 to 10.
In the summer, when it's lighter, it's what, 8 to 11 or 9 to 10? Or still 8 to 10?
8 to 10 year round.
8 to 10 year round.
People get off the top.
Because we did start to do it earlier and, but then it seems silly to be here in a speakeasy when it's light outside, so.
And Chris over here plays the upright bass.
Thomas has something to say?
I was gonna ask, can anyone sit in with the band?
Yeah, that's what it is. Is everyone have a piece to say? There'll be plenty more opportunities, I hope, in the. I hope. Okay, I'm getting ready to introduce our late coming board member. Carol Singletary has been in the trenches for a long time.
Yeah, Dr. Carol Singletary, I went through the class in 2017. And I have literally audited the class every year since. So, I came in as a student. I've been on the board since I've been in. I don't understand y'all. And then they give me leadership position. I really don't understand. But it has been really great. And I see some of the people that I talk with. And it was wonderful, as Gabby said, just getting to talk to people, to touch bases with you, to know who you are before you get here. It is a wonderful, wonderful school, and it was when I went, but now that we have Dr. Green, that who teaches at my alma mater, Claflin. We have it rocking now. You went to Claflin too, baby?
I'm just clapping.
But it is absolutely a wonderful experience, and you won't come one time and not come again. I can almost guarantee you that. So good seeing all of y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. And you may be wondering who this well-dressed guy that just came in late. That's Dr. Green with an E, G-R-E-N-E, the second. That means there's two more out there somewhere we ought to find. Because we could not have designed this gentleman who has all this knowledge. And if he taught this way, he would get run out of public education. So he's teaching at a private school that's really lucky to have him. Dr. Green, come up and introduce yourself and talk to people.
Well, thanks for the kind words there, Brett. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. Yes, in my day job, I do work at Claflin University in Orangeburg. And funny enough, I think in the last 2 weeks, I've been in Orangeburg. I live here in Columbia. I've been to Charleston, not Florence. So I've seen much of the state just in the last 2 weeks alone. But the Modjeska Simkins School is something that I have deeply cared about since 2019. In part because the attacks on education, the attacks on our history have been going on for far longer than the last couple of months. The problem is that those attacks have greatly accelerated in the last week. As I mentioned on the Zoom call a moment ago, at the SCHA conference, every historian was talking about the fact that there is a sense that academia itself, not only under attack, but academia is, for all intents and purposes, being destroyed. And most of us do not see a way out of this right now. I will be totally frank with you. I am not sure if the history we do in this school will be taught in public or even some private schools 10, 20 years from now, or even 10, 20 months from now. So I feel heartened by the fact that I see so many folks here, so many talented folks here this afternoon. I am looking forward to teaching the class again this semester. When folks like Alan or Keith or Cecil talk about taking the class again and again and again, I think about the fact that they are the reason I have to keep revising my lectures. I'm always adding something different, but in part because of feedback from students, and also in part because, as others have mentioned, these lessons from history, we can draw so many new things from there every single year. So this particular session I'm looking forward to, because I think there's a lot to be said about the ongoing fights against censorship, the ongoing fights to preserve our history. And I think it's important to note, again, especially as a Black person who is from the South. I'm originally from Georgia, so my apologies in advance. Actually, from Augusta, Georgia, so right across the river. Yeah, thanks. And the folks in the back talking about Air Force and Army. My father was in the Army for 20 years. My grandfather was in the Army before that. He spent his time in the Army getting shot at in Korea and Vietnam. So, I have an armed forces background there. Although my parents, when I was in high school and I was thinking about going to one of these service academies, my parents, just post 9/11, they were both like, let's just stick with college and think about that. But I want to just make one more point really quickly. It's institutions like the Modjeska Simkins School that are going to be instrumental in keeping these histories alive. I just mentioned how so many of these histories are under attack in public education. Even places like Claflin, we're feeling the pinch right now because we do get some federal funding. But especially for Black Americans, but in terms of thinking about people's history in general, it has been institutions outside of public education that have kept these histories alive, whether it was churches, whether it was leadership schools like Modjeska Simkins himself once ran, whether it was just get-togethers of folks who want to learn more about this nation's past. And the great thing about the Modjeska Simkins School is that the history of South Carolina is not just a history of strife and defeats. I think we tend to think of this state as a place where only bad things come out of it. But instead, what this school also emphasizes the folks who fought back. The folks who fought back using their words, using rhetoric, using politics, using organizing, sometimes even using armed self-defense. But they all fought back. And I think in this day and age, the spirit of fighting back has never been more important than it is right now. So whether you're coming here simply out of a curiosity about history, coming here as a concerned citizen, or coming here as somebody who wants to get involved in the greater game activism and organizing, the Modjeska Simkins School of Human Rights is a place for you. And again, I emphasize those last two words, human rights, because right now we are fighting battles I thought we had won a long, long time ago. But I cannot do a school like this without thinking about what my parents, what my grandparents, my great-grandparents have gone through. You know, I talk to my folks every single day on the phone. And I think about the fact that when they were born, Jim Crow was still a real thing. And as God is my witness, I'll be damned if that kind of thing comes back in my life.
Yes, sir.
So I am, again, thrilled and pleased to have all of you here back to me. And let's help the fight together.
We couldn't afford him if we had to pay him. Or not, your tuition helps keep Dr. Green driving up and down the highway. But I want to open it for questions and answers. You can ask me a question or Becky a question or Dr. Green a question. And if there aren't any questions, we want to take a picture, Becky, outside with everybody, because we may never see this many people again.
We could do a group shot, but let's answer any questions.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And then we're gonna have, if you don't have to leave, you can stay and talk. That's the important part. Ma'am?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to mention, nobody shouted out the Navy and my dad's retired.
30 years in the Navy with my father, okay? And I graduated from segregated Beaufort High School in 1966, living on Parris Island for 4 years, watching the Vietnam War come up and crazy. By the time I was 19, I was being arrested for protesting the war. I spent 2 years in prison for spray painting, "Hell no, we won't go on my draft board wall in Columbia." First offense misdemeanor in the big house. They made an example out of me, and this is what you get. But that business about the military kids, there's a fork in the road. Either they go right or they go left. And that apparently I think we've got some left-handed folks here. But that the thing is, I think I saw, and the people that are probably in agreement with me, we saw how the machine runs. The kids that were trained to go to Vietnam and kill people were my age. They had no idea. The officers had no idea. I had this argument with my father. Well, Father, isn't what we're doing in Vietnam the same thing we resisted King George for, the colonialism, picking up the French again? It's like, start screaming. He had, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And one of the things that has been working against us is people didn't have to get involved for this long period of time. When they want you to go fight their war, or they're going to put you in jail, you've got to get involved. When they're beating you over the head for being black or, breathing while black, you've got to get involved. So they kind of smooth things out. People don't protest. Now Donald Trump's organizing for us. This is really scary what he's doing. And we have to make the difference. It's hard. It's hard. It takes this one between reacting and acting. I've reacted all my life. We all need to react. But if everybody's reacting, who's making the strategy? Who's thinking around the corners? Who's preparing for the next 5 years? And that this transitional stuff, the politics it's temporal. That's the word. It's temporal, and it's here today, gone tomorrow, and you're reacting to it. You're not building anything. And people react, and it's like a campaign. You go punch a button every 2 years, or you go protest. And we got to have something that lasts longer than a campaign, and that's building a movement. And I've watched the movements come and go. You're going to learn in this school that in South Carolina in the 30s and 40s, it was the most organized and militant place in America, with people like Simpkins and others that you'll find out about. She's working within an international circle. The reason that conference was here in 1946 was the work that they were doing and standing up. South Carolina was the last place for everything, where they're coming around and doing privatizing they privatized the Democratic Party to keep black people from voting in 1946. And so this is what we're learning here, that South Carolina is kind of like a testing ground for bad things. Well, it's also a testing ground for good things, and strong things and resistance, and that's what we're about. The questions? If there's no questions, we can.
Can I say one thing? Can I build off of what you and Dr. Green were saying? So I'm sure many of you have heard about the federal executive order against diversity, equity, and inclusion. But the federal is one thing, and one thing you'll learn here at Modjeska Simkins School is that local is the power, and South Carolina especially has been a forerunner for a testing ground for what's going to happen and what's effective in other places in our country. South Carolina right now, our universities, our K through 12 education, our local businesses are under threat from an anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion. There is a House bill, there is a Senate bill, and they even have it on our budget. Because they are damned and determined to push this through. This removes funding. This puts people, it makes people liable to lose their jobs for anything they deem that has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it is very vague. So while we do know that this is on the federal, it is also happening right now in South Carolina. And so as Dr. Green was saying, places like the Modjeska Simkins School, the history that we teach is under threat, and it's under threat right here. Ways to get started to fighting back is by talking about this in your everyday conversations, is making sure that we are saying the words diversity, equity, and inclusion. And also, as Brett said, part of us have to react, and the other part of us have to be looking around the corner. Tuesday at 2:30 at the State House, they will hear the bill for anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion at the Black Building at 110. I will be there along with some other college students and college faculty and some activists from across the state. I would love if you were able to attend. So please join and meet us as we testify, pack the room, to make sure they realize that we are paying attention and this bill is not going to pass without a fight and our eyes are on them. Thank you, Brett.
That subcommittee or committee?
It's a past subcommittee. They went to full committee, but they are allowing public testimony. If you would like to testify, I mean, you can sign up, but I'm also going to be there early to help sign up people on our side to testify.
And if you can't be there, call.
Yes.
Call your representatives and senators and flood their offices.
And I will say also, there's a bill in the House right now, I'm sure most of you know this already, that is trying to make it a felony for women to have a miscarriage. They would make it that every miscarriage has to be investigated, and that if the woman is deemed to have contributed to the miscarriage in any way, we don't really know what that is, but I'm sure that would be doctors doing that investigation. So that could be riding a bicycle, going to work, because you know they don't want women to work anymore. So, I mean, don't laugh. No, this is legit. This is legit.
Yeah.
I mean, right, the 19th Amendment is on the chopping block, okay, so, so they want to make it a felony that would be prosecuted by life in prison. So I do know that right now they're looking for clergy to speak against that. So if you are, someone might have said clergy, yes, sir, that's right. I knew someone was here.
I'm your huckleberry.
I need to get contact information. It's red. Contact the people at Red. They will do that, but I can put you in touch too.
Is that with the total abortion ban though, or is that separate?
The abortion ban is, that's passed. That's law.
Oh, what if they are on Tuesday for that? Or did I?
That is what it is on Tuesday.
What are they trying, so it might be for this one, I thought. I don't know.
No, it's the covering any type of like abortion, like miscarriage that you have to have investigated.
That's a separate bill now, so they didn't, it wasn't
The
enough.
hearing for that bill is Tuesday morning,
Yes.
and it's open to the public.
And they're gonna debate, you can make public comment on that and show up for that Tuesday also.
You have to give your writing, in the day before, they went
Yes.
by Monday, and they'll select, testimonies.
Is that a, and, okay, what, do you know?
It's
that-
at the same house, the
Do you know the
9:30,
house
meeting
bill
up at.
number that one is?
Is it the same house or is it the black building?
I think the flat building, when people are meeting in front of the same house.
That's a flat, okay.
Going together.
And that's abortion ban with no exceptions for sex.
Totally.
Yeah,
That,
the
that's the
total
total
abortion ban.
abortion ban.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's considering
3, 4,
like,
5, 7.
any type of health, like if you're having health issues.
So what I'd like to do is to get any questions that are relevant to the immediate functions of the school. And then we'll take a picture, because we may not see, like I said, some of you are gonna go off to wherever it is you go off to. And we may not see you again except on the screen. And I'd like for everybody to give us a photograph, but Elon Musk does everything about you, so don't worry about mine. But we'd like to have like a yearbook. We don't even know who graduated. And we would like to be better organizers to be able to, mobilize these people. And as we move along, you're gonna learn some of the things that we have the data, that when you're doing the type of work that Annabelle's talking about, or other people talking about, but things, you can understand who it is that you're dealing with. Who the legislator is, what neighborhood he lives in, and how many children he has, who on his block has voted, and find out who goes to church with. And it's that type of local thing. We used to call states the laboratories of democracy. That was then. Now, most states, there's like all but like a handful of states, they call them battleground states, I think we're 5 or 6 this year, where voting actually makes a difference, because the rest of them are rigged by gerrymandering. We got blue states and red states. In South Carolina, we've got blue towns, blue counties, and red towns and red counties, and we can kick ass in the blue county and blue towns, because people have given up on the Democrats. And it's just, they're not voting, not voting, not voting. The double-edged sword of white supremacy in suppressing the vote for the last 100 and something years is there are more black people registered not voting than there are white people voting. That's very powerful. We have all that data and can localize it and mobilize it. We need troops in the field. Questions about our work, James, and then Pooja.
Actually, I want to comment on what you said about I just want to say, like, I mean, I think one thing that's important to remember is that a lot of the people that aren't just voting because they're disinterested, but because the policies that are being put into place have absolutely no effect on their lives.
Sure.
Because whether they're Democrats or Republicans, they don't care about the poor or like racial justice in any meaningful way. So I think that I mean, the idea that like having like just a Democrat in office, I mean, you can see in Atlanta right now, there's massive protests against, for example, Cop City. It's a Democrat city. I'm from Atlanta, so that's why. But I just wanna make sure, like, they're still building. They're still building it. Someone's died already by being shot by the cops that are trying to fund Cop City. There have been multiple protests, multiple petitions about them not wanting this to be built, but because all the Democrat politicians are bought out by the businesses that are interested, like Coca-Cola, et cetera, they don't care that the people don't want it. It's about the businesses. So important to keep in mind.
James?
Questions for all of us, and it's just about the money. If you came prepared to pay your tuition today, do catch me before you leave, then I'll take care of that. If you didn't, that's fine. Not putting pressure on, but I'll be here until the crowd's done.
I talked to him about splitting your tires before you leave, that's the thing, so you pay him. But I wanna, but in response to what Pooja just said, there's so many different reasons people aren't voting. But the fact is they are not, and that 78% of the people in South Carolina, is 3 point something million voters registered. 78% of them only have one viable candidate on the ballot to vote for. And so when there's only one person to vote for, it kind of diminishes the motivation. And so there's many different reasons, but we figured out and figured out all of those in ways to talk to people. Any other questions before we take our picture?